Hey, welcome. My name is Aaron, and this is the Wedding Storyteller podcast. Today I have Mckenzie with me from Travel House Films, and we're talking about how do you create a story-driven workflow from the story itself to the shooting into the editing. So let's get right into it. Mckenzie, welcome. It is so good to see you. I feel like it's been a hot minute, but it's probably been, what, 4 or 5 months? 5 months maybe that we saw each other last?
Yeah, whatever January is. That's
I
it.
can't think right
We've
now.
met this for the first time. I feel like I've known you and Yancy for quite a bit now since we've did Mastermind and everything. But it was super fun
Yeah,
being in person at the
that
Mastermind retreat in January.
yeah, that was really cool. So we actually met in a mastermind retreat from How to Film Weddings back in Fe- January. Yeah, January.
Yeah.
And we met in Scottsdale, Arizona. So that was awesome. We got to just create some relationships, and Mckenzie was definitely one of them. So a little bit about Mckenzie, and I'm gonna do just a quick introduction, and I'll have her kind of tell you guys who she is, where she's come from, and all of that good stuff. So obviously, this is Mckenzie, and she owns Travel House Films, and you're located in Virginia, right?
Yep. Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond,
It's a great
Virginia.
place.
If you are not following her, go ahead and do so on Instagram at Travel House Films. She's incredible. She's doing some amazing stuff. And today we're going to talk about how do you develop a story-driven workflow. So, Mckenzie, just give us a deeper intro about you. Just give us a backstory. How did you get started, and all of that?
Uh, well, I got started back in 2016. I had just graduated from college. I think I did a lot of what like a lot of us wedding videographers do when we're just getting started and we know how to use a camera. So there's like somebody getting married. They're like, "Hey, you can use a camera. Come to my wedding." So I did that, like throughout the last 2 years of college or something. And then after I graduated, I was like, yes, I want to tell true stories, and wedding films seems like a great way to do that. And so I just kind of jumped into it. I had no idea what I was doing, but I hired a mentor. I hired David Reynosa from Forestry Films to mentor me through like the first year and a half. We did like a number of calls throughout that time, and he really helped me get started because anything I thought I knew, I didn't know. So, um,
Yes.
that's how I got started. And it's been almost 6 years, I guess. Yeah, something like that. Um, but it's been super fun. The journey's been really unique in a lot of ways and unexpected in a lot of ways. But I'm so thankful for where I'm at now. It's a
Yeah,
blast, and I love growing, and I love serving all these couples. They're amazing.
I love it. So do you mind just getting into a little bit of like you're married, right? And just
I
the
am married.
backstory of that and how, because like I think people need to know about this. It's such an incredible story, and I know you told us, and we know this story, but go ahead and just like give the people what they want.
Let's go. Did I tell you guys how I met my husband? Did I tell you that whole story? I feel like I might have,
uh,
but I don't remember at this point.
I think no, I think you told us the after.
All of my really a brief overview. And all right, so um, my husband is from India, and he's in the U.S. now, which is amazing. But it took us a while to get here. Took him a while to get here. I met him back in 2017. Yes. So I was just doing like video projects on the side, not as part of my business, but just like passion projects. And my dad knew that I loved doing those, and he knew that I loved traveling, and so he had connected me with this project in India. It's in South India, if anybody's curious. So I went to South India, and I met my husband. He was like supposed to be, his name's Jonathan. So he was was supposed to be like the guy who picked me up. I had my best friend with me, so he picked us up at the airport, showed us around the city, and introduced us to that area. And I was making a video for his dad's organization, which was really cool. And throughout an 8-day process, we got to know each other really well, connected a lot, and between him and my best friend scheming behind my back, we ended up starting to get to know each other over video chat from there on. So we dated, we got married in March 2019 in Italy. We just brought our families and met in the middle. It was the best decision to do that. And then I lived in India for a year and a half with my husband, and which was awesome and quite an adventure, and it was also really hard at times. India is a little bit chaotic. It's organized chaos, but I loved being with his family and loved the food. But I had to move back in 2020 to do weddings because I was outsourcing the shoots to my brother and my friend, and they were shooting all the weddings for me while I edited back in India. But I couldn't outsource anymore, so I had to come back and shoot the weddings myself. And I thought that my husband would get here shortly after, but that did not happen. So we did it was from September 2020 to March 2022, that we were not living together. I got to visit him a couple times in India, but we did 6 months of long distance, then we did 8 months of long distance. It was a lot, which was really hard, really challenging, but we grew a lot, and ultimately we're both really thankful for the ways that we grew. My husband would say that through the difficulty that he's been through, it's really taught him that location doesn't change you. You have to change no matter what your location is, no matter what your circumstances. You have to choose to take responsibility and change and grow. And when you enter a new place or a new season, then you're ready for it. So I'm just really thankful for his inspiration. And now we're here. So we're just both really thankful to be here and both building our separate businesses here in the U.S. And growing a lot.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Like, and if you guys haven't seen it already, like there's obviously a heart and passion behind everything that you do. And I love that story about you and your husband and, the difficulty and all of that happened throughout, your relationship. So that's actually a really great segue into what we're going to be talking about. And that is just a story-driven workflow. And more specifically, like, how do you put your heart behind something that you actually love? And how do you do that at 100% every single time? Because I feel like we can get so stuck into in just the systems and workflow. And we almost always leave out the heart and the creative, inspiration behind that. Does that make sense?
You like sometimes either getting burnt out or just not feeling the heart sometimes to edit something. How do we go about that?
Yeah. So like, how do you put your heart behind your whole process on a wedding?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm still always growing in like the process of how I put together a film. But at this point, I feel like I've just grown in a lot of confidence, especially this year. Grown a lot of confidence in my edits and developing a system that I feel really works for me and really feels like me as an artist. I think in probably the first couple years of my business, maybe the first few years, I was looking at other people's work for inspiration and being like, oh, I just need to be like them and them and them, which is fine starting out to get inspiration from people. But at some point, you have to really say, like, this is where I'm at. This is my style. This is what I'm going to focus on. And this is what I like best. So it took me a while, but I feel like now I have a really good system. And it's all based around specific moments. So that even when I'm not feeling super excited about a particular wedding or I'm just not feeling good on a particular week where I have to edit something, I kind of already know what's going to work for me. So it's all based around like looking for power moments in a wedding day. So lately, what I've been doing is I've been editing totally out of order, which I usually do anyway, but like now I'm like intentionally doing it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna specifically edit out of order. Not editing the events out of order necessarily, but editing like the end before I edit the beginning sometimes, and editing the middle part. And
That's so
so
good.
I'll go straight to the part where like the bride walks down the aisle. And I'm like, that's the moment. That's the moment we all want to see, right? That's the moment that everybody is here for. So I'll go straight to that moment usually and figure out what music is going to bring the power out of that one. And so I find the moment. I also build up that moment more now than I used to make sure like whenever the couple watches this film, they're gonna be like, that's exactly how I felt while we were looking at each other down the aisle. And I want them to like almost, even if the moment was really short, like some people have a really short ceremony aisle to walk down, I want it to feel longer than it actually was. I want them to like really soak in that moment, even more than they probably got to on the wedding day, which is really cool.
I love
That's a
that.
little bit of my process.
No, this is perfect. So you you mentioned that you look for these moments. Like, so how do you actually do that? Let's back up, and how do you do that
Yeah.
before the actual wedding, like before shooting it? What does your process look like to prepare for the wedding day so that you can find these moments, so you can look for these moments and say, okay, I remember the bride maybe telling me or hinting something about their dog being there, or a grandparent that's super close to them being there. Like, are these like, how do you, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, my process is very detailed. I have a whole questionnaire with so many questions. And I have them go through that questionnaire basically at least a couple weeks before the wedding day, if not more. It kind of depends uh, like what their planning process looks like. But I go through the questionnaire with them. I get on a video chat with them, and usually through the video chat and going through the questionnaire with them, I'm able to ask like follow up questions to the questionnaire. I'm able to remind myself of their story, remind myself like what their family is like. A lot of times I'll just ask like, who's in your bridal party, and sometimes
Mm.
that brings out things that I didn't realize I needed to know. Um, like whether it's family members in their bridal party or friends from high school, or you never know. Sometimes somebody will put a parent in their bridal party, and that's important to know. Little details like that, when you start asking about people's family members, I feel like it brings out a lot of important story elements.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so, yeah, and so grandparents specifically, because a lot of times you just don't know how long they're gonna be with you, and so I think
Mm.
grandparents are a specific important piece that like they don't usually get a lot of speaking moments during a wedding day. But just to have any video that I can get of them, I'll literally stay for the family portrait session sometimes just to film it, just in case there's a grandparent there. If that's the only moment I get of the grandparents for some reason, then at least I have that. Um, but I don't want to miss a family member because I know that that is going to be the most important part, is highlighting the family, because that's really, it shows where you've come from and who is closest to you. So I think that's important. It's focusing on family throughout the questionnaire and throughout all the details of the day. I think family is like number one.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and like you're right. Whenever you ask about who's going to be there, like you get some answers that you definitely did not know unless you've asked. And that's happened to us. It's like, oh, surprise. It's like, oh my gosh, this is super important. Like, how could you leave this out? But again, I think we're there to guide them through this and like bring out what their heart is so that we can put our heart into that as well. Um, so what is that? You mentioned a little bit about your editing process with that, that you look for these moments. What are some of the most specific moments that you're looking for to put in a film that are very common, I guess you can say? And obviously, there's going to be more specific moments for that specific wedding, but like walking down the aisle is one of them. Anything
Right.
else that you can think of?
Yeah, so I kind of recently when I was like writing down like what is my process, just while I edit, I write down notes like to tell myself what my process is in case I need reminders later. Uh, so I have
Yes.
like tiers of importance for moments. So like the first tier is like walking down the aisle is obviously like number one. We want to build up to that moment more than anything. That and like the end of the ceremony where they're like husband and wife, let's go, and they're walking back down the aisle. So like those two moments I feel like really need to be highlighted really well. And the but of course like the intro to the film and the end of the film both need to be really powerful, but those can be debatable like how you want to start and end a film, right? But I think as far as moments go in the day, like tier one, walking down the aisle and walking back down the aisle. Those two moments are power moments. And then other things are like first look, if they're doing a first look. That would be on tier one as well. But then tier two for me is like any other first looks, especially with like dad, maybe mom,
Yeah,
or
those are good.
sometimes the bride does a first look with a brother. I'd say that's like number two is the first looks with secondary people. Because those are super sweet moments. A lot of times when a bride's like with her dad doing a first look, the dad will tear up or she'll tear up, or it's just like very like sweet moment. But other things I actually put on tier two moments are like they're more candid moments, but I film them very intentionally and I plan for them. One of my recent favorites has been when the bride is getting ready in her dress and she's with her mom, usually, or maybe a sister. I've been calling photographers in advance now and like just going through basic like shoot techniques, like here's where I'm going to be, here's where you're going to be. But I'll also mention, hey, while the bride is getting ready in her dress with her mom, like I definitely want you to get all your shots, but one of the moments that I really look forward to is when she's all ready and her mom looks at her, and I like to prompt a little moment by saying, "Hey, mom, what do you think?" And my most recent film, like I got the best moment out of that, and it was so good because the mom like looked at her daughter, took her hands, and was like, "I'm so happy for you, and I'm so
I
happy
love
that
that.
we have your husband in our lives. Like he's such a great part of our family, and I'm just so happy." And like, I was like, "Oh, this is so good. This is gold."
Yes.
But if I don't photographer in advance, then sometimes the photographer like starts talking and like saying, "Oh, post for this photo," and they don't know that I'm looking
Yeah.
for candid moments. So if I kind of
It,
prepare, then those are key moments. Super good. I love
yeah.
those.
I love that. And like you're right, communicating with the photographer, it's like it's so key because I will say this, like sometimes we feel like we deserve moments like that, but they don't know that unless we tell them that. So
Right.
communicating with them is just super important, especially again if you want to get a process where it's your heart into the whole thing. Um, with that,
Mm.
also, like, do you think about maybe what you're delivering or any of those things before, like, it, throughout your shooting process? Like, if you're delivering a full ceremony, does that play a part into, or does that change how you shoot on a wedding day, at all?
Mm. Oh, for sure. My particular packages, I always include a full ceremony edit. Because I mean, like it's cool if it's an add-on, like it's fine, but a lot of times like I don't like to sell too much extra stuff. I don't love selling. That's not my favorite part of my business. So I'm like I'm just going to include the stuff that I know you're going to need. Like this is this is good to be able to watch your whole ceremony all the way through, to see all the little funny moments, the full vows, the full sermon of the pastor, whatever it may look like. So I always shoot the ceremony as if I'm going to edit all the way through because I usually am.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that they get to have that and hear everything that was said during the ceremony. I mean, the first wedding video in quotations that I've ever watched was my mom and dad's, which was like, one camera, VHS, whatever, and there's like terrible audio, but it just like watched them walk down the aisle, watch the ceremony. You can barely hear it, but then they walk back down and like, whoo. But I loved watching that because it was so cool to see my mom and dad as younger people and like getting married, and it's just raw footage. I think raw footage is powerful because our wedding films are super powerful because we are adding audio design, we're adding music, and we are building a beautiful flow to the story that highlights them in a really cool way, in a powerful way. But I think raw footage has a lot of power too. So I think it's that I include the whole ceremony always. I usually, depending on the package, I usually include all the toasts too, because usually people want to watch those again. But I shoot the ceremony with 3, if not 4 cameras. If I can get 5, I will. But like, I want all the angles, the reactions. I don't want to be distracting from the ceremony, of course, but I love reaction shots if I can get them. So, lately I've been really focusing on that more. Getting those reactions, getting all the creative angles. It feels more like a movie that way when you get to edit that.
Oh, for sure. I listen, if I can get more cameras, obviously, like, yes. I hate renting cameras. That's just me. But, yes, the more cameras you have on a ceremony, the better. If you can do that, go for it. I can't because I would go way broke. Anyways, so I love how, like, you are shooting for these edits, like preparing yourself. So you're not, wondering, am I going to sell this or am I going to give this edit to them afterwards? And do I have to worry about it? Because, like, I'm going to tell you, I've gotten to, like, before it was like, man, now I have to come up with a ceremony edit. Like, I have no way of doing it, like, because of the way that I shot that. And I wasn't thinking through that at the moment. But obviously now we shoot the same way, like we plan for that, whether we're delivering or not, and it's just been super helpful. And then what kind of moments, as far as like fillers, do you actually look for on a wedding day? Because I know that's a struggle for me sometimes. Like, I'm just like, man, I don't have these moments to fill in the gaps, between these bigger moments that are meaningful. I will say that because I have shots forever, like just filling in moments that don't mean anything. But how do you make these little like B-roll clips feel genuine and feel real to you and real to the couple as well?
Yes, that's a super good question. I love that. Well, I mean, obviously there's like portrait sessions, but I treat portrait sessions as actually probably one of my last things that I add into a film, because
Really?
the portrait session, it's like the portrait session is fun because it's really pretty, but it's not powerful in itself, So usually the portrait session is there as like my last filler option. Maybe I'll like start the film with a couple of portraits just to like, because they're eye-catching. I think you need to start the film with something eye-catching. I think that's important. So usually start the film maybe with a couple portraits. Yeah, no. So the portrait session's important, but like it's not my number one. My filler moments, my B-roll usually comes from like candid moments during getting ready. I try to, sometimes I'll tell my second shooters too, like if my second shooter's with the groom and I'm with the bride, I'm just like roll longer than you think you need to, just press record, let it go. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Just let the like laughs come in. If I enter a really quiet room with a bridal party and for some reason it's quiet, I don't know, I'll start asking them questions like, hey, how do you guys know each other? Did you just meet? Did you are you guys going to dance tonight? Do you have entrances that you're doing for the reception? I'll just ask questions until they start having their own conversation. And then I
Yes.
get lots of laughs as they're talking with each other. Because I think it's important. That's what the couple wants to see anyway. Like when they look back on their films, like they get to see so and so laughing and this person laughing and this person having a good time. They want to remember that everybody on their wedding day had the best time ever. So like things like that I think are really important. Um, and then like during sometimes cocktail hour is a good filler, but I don't always use cocktail hour, so maybe that's a lesser important thing. It kind of depends what it looks like. But reception moments, if the cake cutting was really cute, if they had a fun time with that, I'll use that as a B-roll, like while they're saying their vows or something. Their first dance, I make sure their first dance looks super good. I'm gonna get a close-up, I'm gonna get a wide shot. If they're doing a choreographed dance, that's definitely going in there. Like, I want them to feel like just really, really amazing. Like everything they planned was beautiful. But
Yeah.
again, the portrait session is usually my last thing that I add. So usually my favorite B-roll is like candid moments between family members and friends. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it kind of depends on the wedding. But I look for those moments and I try to create them if they're not happening.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is don't go out there just filming some plants, some lavender plants or any of that for B-roll. I mean, you can. It's cool, but I think we've all seen it and we all you know what films I'm talking about. I'm not going to say any names cuz
Yeah,
that'd be bad. But,
all the nature.
right, right. And that's cool. Like get what's happening. If there's a plant that they love, get it. But I'm pretty sure they didn't tell you, "Hey, grab this plant because I love it." Um and so
Right, right. I
what
use a
about
lot of plants.
yes. So what about music? Like talk through that. Like what does that look like for you cuz I think this was probably one of the most difficult ones to actually nail and be consistent with because
Mhm.
music changes and it's never the same. And we don't want it to be the same. We want it to feel right and but different at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm super curious to oops. I'm super curious to hear from you on what do you do with music moments like that.
That is such a good question. And this is stuff that I've been working on to kind of developing my own little music choice system. As a general time saver, I just try to, like, anytime I'm choosing music for a particular film, if I find something that I think will sound good with a different film that I'm not working on yet, I'll save that in a project and be like, all right, that's for later. So sometimes
Yes.
that's a good time saver. And a lot of times I'll find like way more songs than I actually need for the film. And that's great because then sometimes I think a certain soundtrack is going to be like, oh, this is going to be perfect for this film. And then I put the music under the shots that I was thinking would go with it. And for some reason, the vibe is not matching. So sometimes it's trial and error. But a lot of times I really try to just enjoy myself and really use my imagination. So I'll get a cup of coffee, something like that. I'll get a snack. I'll put my
Yes.
headphones on, like go through the music. I'm like going through all these atmospheric cinematic soundtracks, whatever the vibe is for this particular wedding. I just go through and listen, and I really let myself feel it. Anything that gives me chills or like just gives me a good feeling when I'm thinking about this couple, I save it. I'm like, that's for this project. Gonna save it for that one. And I try to find a little variety. A particular song that has a few like build moments, for the moment she walks down the aisle or the moment
Yeah.
they see each other, the first look. You want those little like musical highs that signify those moments happening, bring more power to the moment. And I always choose something either really fun or just really like powerful, upbeat for the end. So there is like some template, I guess, when it comes to
Right,
choosing
for
music.
sure.
You know, you want to start in a certain mood. You want to go through the vows with certain kind of music, and you want the end to be like pretty upbeat usually. But generally, like, there's no specific template. I'm just always like, how does this song make me feel, and does it feel like this couple? This is something I thought of recently. that I think is really helpful. Always think of the age and the personality types of the couples. So for a younger couple, like my brother and my sister-in-law got married last year, and they're pretty young. They're 20 and 21. Or now they're both 21 anyway, but they're still young. So I was like, I want to choose a song that is going to be very like young and vibrant and fun. And so I start their film off with a lyrical song, which I don't use a ton of lyrical songs, but I used one for this one, and it just like makes you feel like you're free and you're doing great things and you don't know where you're going yet, but it's gonna be great. That's what the song's called. It's gonna be good. Gonna be good, something like that. But it felt very young. So I was like, this is the song for them. It's not a song I could use for a couple like in their late 20s or their 30s, because it, like people at that age are have a little more mature sound that I want to use. So I think about the age of the couple and like what their vibe is. I had a recent couple that is in their probably late 20s, I'm guessing. And they're very sophisticated. They're a lot of fun, but they're very like sophisticated in the whole vibe of their wedding day. They used a lot of like Frank Sinatra throughout their day, that kind of tone. So I chose music that was going to feel more mature, but still like powerful and cinematic. So I think a lot about who the couple is when I'm going through music and how it makes me feel and how it will probably make them feel.
Yeah, that's so good. I haven't really thought about it that way. So that's like, those are great tips. Like you're right, because everybody kind of has their own like genre according of per age or personality and stuff like that. So you can kind of get a good vibe and like reading on who they are, what they might like or what they might not like. So I do have to plug in Musicbed because they are incredible. We use Musicbed for this. Link in the
Same.
description below and show notes. But that they really do have an extensive library of like just amazing music. I will listen to Musicbed like because they have the app, so like I'll just put it on my AirPods and just listen throughout the day. And you're right, if there is a song that I'm like, yeah, this one's it, I can save it and have that ready for them when I get to that edit, even before I shoot it, which is amazing. Like I love that. So all of that to say, like, what happens when you get stuck with any of these parts of the process? Because it's obviously happened to all of us. What do you do? Where do you go to find some inspiration or motivation in these places where you're just like creatively like getting stuck?
Yeah, well sometimes I'm just stuck because I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna put in the next part. I'm just gonna go take a break. And then but sometimes the best thing for me is like when I don't know what to do next, like just keep editing, just keep putting pieces in here. Something's gonna work. So sometimes I just have to like kick myself and be like, all right, just let's just start putting more video in this part, and just whatever keeps me going, and all of a sudden something will click. So sometimes that's the answer. Other times I do need to take a break and I need to go watch a movie. So one of
Yes.
my favorite, I know everybody's their favorite movies that like make them feel good. So my feel good movies that are inspirational cinematically as well are Secret Life of Walter Mitty and Pride and Prejudice. I think yes. I think that both of those are like my go-tos for wedding films specifically, because they do a really cool job with the way that they place with the lenses that they choose. And you can like kind of tell like what's gonna make you feel a certain thing if you really focus on the shots in those films. You can really like say, oh, they were very intentional. This isn't just like, I don't know, some Hallmark movie. Like they're really intentional with the way that they framed everything. Like Secret Life of Walter and Mitty, like when the main character is feeling stuck and like he doesn't do anything adventurous or cool with his life. All the shots are very like boxy, and you see a lot of squares in the shots that he's in. The prop design was really cool too, but everything's very centered. Everything's very like perfect, and proper looking and straight lines. But then when he starts taking adventures with his life, you see like more colors, brighter colors start to come in, and the movements of the camera starts to come in, and it feels a little bit wild, but the camera is moving with him.
Mm.
So I try to go to the inspiration like that. And Pride and Prejudice, I feel like, is just kind of it's got a very pretty, it's very pretty, the way that they have chosen to shoot things. Um, the Keira Knightley version. So anyway, both of those kind of give me good, like, I don't know, inspiration. Makes me feel like I want to be a filmmaker again. I think we all need those movies in our life that say like, oh yeah, that's why I became a filmmaker. This is great. This is fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But so it's usually that. Sometimes I'll go watch another wedding video for inspiration, but sometimes it distracts me from my style too much.
Yeah.
So it kind
Yeah.
of depends on the day. What about
Yeah. You
you?
can. Yeah. I love The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. That's one of my favorite movies. I think it's as close to perfect as you can get. As far as like creatively telling a story, like I think it just works, and they did such a phenomenal job with it. For me, I think just getting like taking a break, it has to be one of my biggest ways of getting out of that like creative like rut. I just go to Chipotle because that's the land of great food and stuff. Um, no, so like I'll just go do stuff that is just out of the creative thinking for me. And when I come back and I look at it, I'm like, this isn't as bad as I was like telling myself that it was. Like this is actually working. Like, and it happens. You guys know this too. Like it happens every single time you go back to watch a film. Weeks after, you're like, oh, this is actually really good. Like, what was I freaking out about? But it happens to everyone, and yeah, I think again, just having like a process that is based out of storytelling and like actually wanting to tell their story, not just build your own portfolio, is going to take your brand and your films to like a whole nother level where people are gonna look for you,
Mm,
they're gonna want to book you, and you're gonna stand apart. Like if you go look at Mackenzie's films, like
yes.
they stand out because they tell stories. They don't just show beautiful imagery or whatever. Like your films have meaning to them, and that sets you apart. And I love that. I really, really love that. So just like a quick
Aw.
recap of shoot, find out the story, find out what the couple wants, like what your film needs to have, then shoot it in a way that is going to have a meaning. Like don't miss out on moments that you could miss out by not asking about what their story is like, or who they are, who's going to be there, all these little things. And then edit. And I love how people say this is just shoot with the edit in mind, because when you get to the editing room, you're already there. Like you're halfway done. All you have to do is put that together. And yes, you do get stuck. Yes, you do like get creatively like tired, but I think just following that process will get you to a place where your workflow becomes unique, and it's able to tell a story in a different way every single time. So Mackenzie, what give us just if 3 tips for someone who is like, man, I don't know what to do at this point. Like I'm stuck. Where do I even start with creating a story driven workflow?
Okay, let's see. I don't have like a series of tips, but I can tell you my favorite one. Um, and this is just from personal experience. I get very discouraged when I start comparing myself with other businesses and other filmmakers. Sometimes I just have to get off Instagram for a while and be like, I'm so excited for this particular couple that I am editing for today. What are they going to freak out about when they watch their film?
Hmm.
And I just think about that the whole time, and it gets me super excited. Because yes, they are going to freak out, and they are going to text me with a million exclamation points saying, "I love this so much," and that fires me up more than getting on Instagram and looking at other people's businesses. Which sometimes is good to do because we have to connect with other people, but it helps me celebrate other people well when I'm celebrating my own style really well and celebrating my couple as well first. So I'd say that's number one. Second is like, man, find the creative parts of the editing process that just get you super excited. Something lately that's really specific. You can steal this if you want. This is my favorite thing, and I didn't come with this on my own. It's not original, but it's been powerful. It's been awesome. So as I edit the bride walking down the aisle, I've been cross-cutting between other moments while she walks down the aisle. And it's not necessarily just any other moments. It's usually like part of the portrait session that they did together, or maybe it's just like raw photos that they've given me from their dating season. Most recently, it's been I took for my brother's wedding. I took these live photos from his iPhone that, if you turn them into video, it's 3 seconds long. They took lots and lots of selfies together when they were dating, because they were just a super cute teenage couple dating together. And to all their live photos, she gave him a kiss on the cheek like almost every single time in their selfies. And so I have all these like 3 second clips of that. And so I would intercut those while she's walking down the aisle to draw out the walking down the aisle part, but also to be like, hey, you made it here. And I want them to feel that, like, we made it this far. We came so far over these years, and now we're here. So cross-cutting has been my like power move lately in my wedding films. So I try to do that a lot more now, and I think like, even if people didn't cry on the wedding day, hopefully they'll cry during their wedding film. So work on your power moves in your wedding filmmaking, and it'll get you more excited to run your business and keep editing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yes, the comparison game is real. Like, I do find
Yes.
myself just getting off Instagram because it's not encouraging me at some point. Like, if it's encouraging, if it's encouraging you, go for it. But if it's not, leave. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be there all the time. So I love that you said that. And then cross cutting is, yes, it's powerful. We've used it on a few of our films, and it's a game changer. So use it. I think those are awesome tips for you to get started with a workflow that is going to be story driven. It's going to work for you. And again, like, if you're not following Mckenzie, go for it. Do so. You're missing out if you're not. She is incredible. Again, it's at Travel House Films, and reach out to her. Go DM her, whatever you want. Just she's awesome to talk to. Other than that, just go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel and give us a review. It'll be awesome. Or follow the podcast at Wedding Storyteller _ podcast. And other than that, that was it. Thank you, Mckenzie, so much for hopping on. You were amazing. Loved it. And we will see you guys. Yes, it has been awesome. Love it. But we will see you guys on the next one. Podcast drops every other Monday. Peace.